Don't you think working on a AAA game is a dream job for many? A creative job where you are spending your time creating the next big thing coming out. But unfortunately, many game developers face problems like heavy workloads, unpaid overtime, chronic illness, unequal treatment, and a lot more. The issues in the game development industry are not new, but decades old. This video by any chance is not intended to make you think that working in the game development industry is bad and that every company treats their employees unreasonably, but to create awareness of the industry's bad practices.
Hi, this is Yash and you're watching Sort the Art. Let's talk about the dark side of video game industry.
Cyberpunk 2077 had about 500 developers and it took about 9 years of the development cycle. The CD Projekt, the development company of the Cyberpunk 2077 game, had promised their employees to treat them reasonably. Still, it ends up with the requirement to work long hours, including 6 days weeks, for more than a year. In industrial terms, this practice is known as crunch, and sadly, it is too common.
A crunch is a form of unpaid overtime where the staff is forced to work for long hours to finish a project. Crunch time generally arrives when the reach time is close. At that time, game developers are expected to work so much more to meet unexpected deadlines.
This problem increased in the modern era of the game updates and DLCs. When older games were made, there were no updates till the sequel. People did not expect the updates. They bought the games for decades, but now there are the games that regularly need to be updated and have to be provided with DLCs, bug fixes, and so on. All of these things require very hard work in less time. Another reason is the game give release date in the very early stages of development, and then the game takes much more work than expected, which obviously leads to the crunch of the game development. Sometimes making release dates result in unrealistic deadlines, and to reach this makes long working hours in case there is a lack of foresight and unclear vision from the administration side. The weight comes on the game developers.
If crunch long lasts, and even worse, it never ends, then it can affect the mental and physical state of the game developer. While working in the tight schedule, the employee mostly sits on the chair, feeding themselves with unhealthy food, and the sleeping time reduces, not coming in the contact of fresh air or sunlight for a long time.
This lifestyle contributes to many health issues and can have different effect on different kind of people. But most of the commonly known phenomena and physical symptoms are headaches, anger, isolation, irritability, and depression. Focusing so long on work and project make it more challenging to achieve a healthy balance between work and personal life. If you are giving a lot of your energy and time to work, your personal life can suffer, leading you to resent time at the office. One of the developer explained how it feels. The developer said, "My relationship became affected." He also pointed out, "I became affected as a person. I was not sleeping, I was not eating very well, I was going out to drink a lot. It was the only way to deal, shirking work, because feel the anxiety. I'd wake up in the morning and I'd be like, oh god, I have to go to work. I do not want to get out of bed today because I don't want to deal with this crap. Because if people on the ground are feeling this, it means the leads are feeling it, the X's are feeling it, and they push down harder and make it worse.
Even if the game developer leaves the studio or crunch time ends for them, still it takes months to recover, and it can put a significant strain on their personal life and health. If there are such wrong consequences, then the question is, how do the game developers fall for the crunch time?
Crunch exists as the culture of the organization. Managers would never tell people to work overtime. It was always an implication understood and accepted by everyone. Many were happy to do it, hoping to cram in as many flourishes and features as they could and eager to put in as many hours as possible to make. Let's take the example of The Last of Us 2. There, nobody wanted to be the person leaving at 6 or 7 pm. When everyone else plans to stay until midnight, nobody wants to be the one developer who's not there on a Saturday fighting to make every strand of Ellie's hair look perfect, and there's no one in the office telling everyone to go home. Video game studios are often staffed with early career workers who are prone to exploitation and lack of the confidence and experience to refuse the demands for extra work.
While the issue of crunch is not restricted to young people who are just starting out in game development, it also affects the experienced developers who are working in this industry for so long. If the employee agreed to work overtime and volunteer for the progress of the game, it is expected them to call again for the overtime, and then this becomes their routine.
It is the responsibility of the managers to make sure that the work is completed within the deadline. The game development company often does deals with the publishers that require them to deliver the products within a particular time frame. Suppose the time is wrongly calculated or the publisher forced the company to deliver the product untimely. In that case, it will put pressure on the employees. If there are changes in the later stages of the game, this increases the work of the game developers. During the development of Uncharted 4, co-president and co-president had divergent visions over whether a sneaking scene should have guards in it, leading to 3 weeks of wasted work for 3 people.
Developers never asked to work for overtime in writing. If not always, then most of the time it's the manager who pulls them in their offices or on their desks and running a guilt trip about making a deadline and how it would be so appreciated if they work for a long time. By using such psychological techniques, at no point the employees can say that the company forced them to work unpaid overtime.
In this type of game development environment, typically there is no one to resolve workplace issues by being a voice for employees and negotiating with the managers for the rights of the employees. This is because of the lack of unionization in the right game development industry. There are big roles of the unions in the industry like weekends, 8-hour workdays, equal pay for women, sick leave, parental leave, etc. But this is lacking in the game development industry. In the early 1960s, Intel co-founder Robert Noyce, also known as Mayor of Silicon Valley, famously said that remaining non-union is essential for survival for most of our companies. If we had the work rules that unionized companies have, we'd all go out of business. This conviction has dominated the tech industry for decades, where unions are struggling to gain a foothold in most parts of the world. This is mostly done by funding the political parties and giving anti-union incentives to employees. Unfortunately for the game developers, the game industry is no different, but same as the other tech industry.
The another common problem faced by the developers is being used as a disposable workers. Many developers are working as a contact worker. These game developers work as normal employees but don't get benefits such as health coverage, insurance, paid sick leaves, job security, compensations, and so on, because they are not considered as a part of internal team working on the project. And for this reason, they are also not being credited for the work. Many of the contract workers work in the hope that they will be end up as a permanent employees.
You can see such norms in the film industry where contract workers are hired for a particular project and are not treated as full-time employees. In these industries, there are established works unions that ensure that these employees are treated rightly. But video game production houses are different and use this practice for exploitation. Many game development companies tend to extend the contracts again and again, making them work as full-time employees but giving them very few benefits. One of the contract workers explained it as dangling the carrot. She also says they put you on a year's contract and they say that it might end up with a full-time position. You are in suspense until 2 weeks before your contract is up and then they say, "Oh, we cannot convert you." It is estimated that 10% of the game developers are working as contract employees. There is not much done in the industry to solve this problem.
There are so many problems in game production houses. In that case, it is worthwhile to think that why so many people are willing to join these production houses.
Many of the game developers have a passion for games, which leads to deciding their career pathways as game developers. Many workers find working in the casual business environment is casual attire like jeans, t-shirt and sneakers rewarding professionally and personally. Working as a developer of some business software, web and consumer apps does not typically seem exciting to some people compared to working on a game project.
These game development companies tell the workers that they are working on something special from the first day of job. They are being told that they are the chosen ones and they have to make some special efforts to make a special game. In fact, these production houses seize the ability of how much the developers are fit for their heavy workload agenda.
Nathan Allen Ortega, who was a fan of Telltale Games, used to attend many of their events and participate in dressing as a particular character. He was hired by the Telltale game. But soon, he was so stressed out by the work that he developed the ulcer and started coughing the blood. Many of the game developers leave these production houses after being exploited. Many of them continue to stay, hoping that this lifestyle will end soon. Many leave the production houses after being exploited, who are replaced by new employees with the same passion. Many of the developers working in the Naughty Dogs want the game they are working on should be a critical flop. A critical flop might help show Naughty Dog that this is not the best way to make games, that this level of sacrifice is not necessary, that maybe the project is not worth losing all of these people. The game these production houses make can have millions of sales or would have won a dozen of awards. Still, the sacrifice of relationship, free time, health, family, hobbies and the overall way of life the developers pay cannot be justified.